Let me turn this off before I get hit with a copyright. But anyway, I got it working. It was a bit of a bear. Okay, you know, the power supply, making that was no problem at all. The BFO switch is a dual switch. It looks like the back of a television switch, and only it's got two switches in here. When one goes off, one goes on, and it's gummy bared. In other words, this has to come apart and be clean. And I'm not just going to spray stuff in it. I know what's going to be inside. The grease in there is all going to be impacted. The better thing would be to spray some WD-40 in there. Well, anyway, if you remember, I bought the radio. It didn't have any tubes. Now I got a full set of tubes I ordered, and I ordered them in plenty of time for the weekend. Of course, one of the vendors didn't send the tubes right away, so of course they didn't make it for Saturday, and they didn't make it for Monday because it was a holiday. But this is the stuff that always happens to me. Even when I order parts way ahead of time, snow hits the country, or a hurricane, or a holiday, even though I've planned ahead of that. So anyway, I got the tubes in there. I powered up the power supply. Right away, I noticed the BFO was stuck on, and turning the switch on and off would not shut it off. So I cut the wires. I got the switch out. I'm going to redo that. Also, the lights, the front panel lights, they're not working. Oh, and this radio was wired for 6 volts filament. It wasn't wired for 24. So when the tubes didn't come, I said, let me go do some probing. And I got the ohm meter out. And I put it across the filament connection on the power supply, with the power supply not hooked up. And I didn't get any reading because there were no tubes in the set. But as I got the tubes, I started putting them into the set. And the first tube I put in the set, the reading came up. And I'm like, oh no. So I pulled that tube out, put a tube somewhere else in there, it came up. So all the tubes are in parallel. So that means you got to rewire it back. And I want to tell you, it's a job and a half. There's 3 resistors that get cut out. 2 of them are in series, two of the resistors are in series, 1 each of each string. And then there's a resistor that goes to the middle of a string of tubes to ground. I think that's for an RF. It's near the oscillator section. It keeps the RF from getting on the filament in a long string, and then that would cause some modulation. Well, anyway, so I'm in there and I'm like, this guy did a really semi-good job. And I'm starting to think, you know, these rewires are not all done by a ham operator or someone else. I got a feeling that one of the companies that sold these, one of the options is you could order it to be rewired for 6-volt filament. Okay, which back in those days, it'd make it real easy to find a transformer. You could get a transformer out of an old radio. Oh, and the other thing, my 225 volt supply drops down to 160 on this radio under load. So I got to watch that. But anyway, it does work. You know, it's just a matter of figuring out why the lights don't work, tearing this thing apart, you know, taking this apart slowly, figuring out why this is all gummy bared. You know, it is what it is. You know, you got to remember this thing's older than I am, and I'm pretty old. I'm 70, and this is a lot older than that. And you know, these things have plaques on them. Some of them, they actually say where they were in use. And now this is a Wells Gardner, and if I'm saying it right, and this has less IF cans than the other ones, the BC 348s. There's one with an extra IF can, and it's interesting. This one does not use the same tubes as the other one. So I'm thinking to myself, well, you know, I'll order the tubes, and if any of them don't show up, I'll just go over to my other set and take out the remaining tubes I need and put, they're not the same tubes. Okay, so these 2 radios are totally different. So I just want to tell you some of the stuff, because you know, a lot of these guys on the internet, they only work on one radio, and they're giving you all the information based on one radio, and they also have a really good one. Now, this is in fairly good shape. It is showing some moisture damage on some of the parts. You see that on the aluminum, you see that white powder stuff, and that's because it's been sitting in the basement, you know, in a box, in a puddle of water somewhere. And these things are showing up more and more on eBay. And there's one up on eBay that's been totally bodged, and the guy wants 2,500, something like that, or 2,000, and then $500 shipping for it. And I feel bad if anybody buys it. You actually see in the pictures, where he's put parts in there that they're modifications. And a lot of people think that modifying one of these radios makes it better. It really doesn't. I told you, all these command radios and radios like this have. Look at this is the output transformer. Okay, you come out here out of the jack. Okay, and you go over to a speaker box that you make, and you put a transformer in there, a regular filament transformer. And now you don't have to change this. Well, some people will take this out, and then they'll put a different transformer in there so it can go directly to an 8-ohm speaker. But then the headphones are messed up. Well, then you get modern headphones. Okay, so you're basically not moving forward with the radio. You're not making the radio any better. You're just changing things. You're changing the transformer, this transformer, so it can directly drive a speaker. Well, if you got an old filament transformer in there, you put the output leads to the speaker, and then the leads that normally go to the 110, you run them out to the wire, to the jack, to the radio, and that's your impedance matching transformer. It's not super easy, but it's going to be a lot cheaper than buying an output transformer and all the fuss and muss and the mistakes you may make putting it in. Sometimes it's better to leave things alone. Plus, the resale of the radio will stay the same or go up if you take care of it. Right? Every time you do something to one of these radios, think first. Go look at the people that are running it original. And that's why I built my own power supply. If I take the 4 bolts out of this and undo the 4 screws, this comes out. This radio is all original. Okay? I didn't actually undid what someone else did. They wired all the filaments in parallel. And I understand why they did that, because back in the old days, you could get a transformer off a radio out of the garbage and then put it right in here with a 5U4, I think was the tube, something like that, and a capacitor. And they fired these radios up, and it was the least amount of cost. But now when you go to sell them, the ones that aren't touched on eBay get more money, a lot more money, especially if a guy has one in a box. And he'll say unmolested. The word is unmolested. And he'll show you pictures. Now this radio, there's a dent up here, and there's some scratches. The lettering looks like someone tried to paint over it with a paintbrush, and they didn't exactly get in the lines. Yeah, but it's something for me to work on. That's what this radio is. And I do get a little frustrated even at that point. I didn't realize my supply was going to drop that much. I get 160 out of my other ones, so what I should do is put my 160s over here, and that's probably 160 without load though. Yeah, the command radios are 160 without load. So in other words, you have 225 volts with the reverse back-to-back transformers, and then under load you got 160. But there's plenty of volume, and what's amazing is since the last time I played with one of these radios that gets just part of the AM broadcast band, there's 2 stations that have gone back to music. One is a hard rock, and one's called Sweet 16. And this radio just happens to get the top of the band, and it'll also DX the top of the band low-powered stations. But this radio does not do the full AM broadcast band. I'll warn you about that. So you're thinking, well, I'll buy it and I'll DX with it. Well, you're only going to DX from 1500 all the way up to 1600, 1650. And then into the new band, as I call it. It's new in my lifetime. It used to be the ham band up in there at one time. I don't remember how many meters. I'll just say offhand 120 meters, something like that. And someone will correct me. No, that's 140. I don't remember. That's years ago. But my old radios that I used to play with, I used to detune them so I could actually receive the hams up at the top of the AM broadcast band. That's way, way back. Yeah, I remember. I'm 70 years old. I think that's it. All right, that's it.